The stars above Seoul had never looked so wrong. Ji-hoon stood on the rooftop of his apartment building and watched the sky turn from black to red. At first, he thought it was the northern lights, but Korea did not get the northern lights. This was something else. Something terrible. The Draconian Armada had arrived. 10,000 warships hung in the sky like metal mountains. Each one was bigger than any building Ji-hoon had ever seen. They blocked out the moon. They blocked out the stars. They made the night feel like the end of everything. Ji-hoon was a soldier. He had trained for many years to protect his country. But nothing in his training had prepared him for this. No one on Earth had ever imagined that aliens were real. No one had ever thought that they would come to take their planet. His phone rang. It was his sister, Yuna. "Are you seeing this?" she asked. Her voice was shaking. "Yes," Ji-hoon said. "Where are you?" "At the research center. We detected them 3 hours ago. But no one believed our readings. They said our equipment was broken." Yuna was a scientist. She worked with telescopes and satellites. She was one of the smartest people Ji-hoon knew. "What are they?" Ji-hoon asked. "We do not know. But they are not friendly. They already destroyed 2 satellites. They are jamming all our communications. This call might be the last one we can make." The line went dead. Ji-hoon watched the ships begin to move. They spread across the sky like a swarm of insects. Some went north. Some went south. Some stayed right above the city. Lights began to flash on their undersides. Red lights. Warning lights. Then the first beam hit the ground. It struck a building 3 blocks away. The building did not explode. It did not burn. It simply stopped existing. One moment it was there. The next moment there was only empty air, and a perfect circle of nothing, where the foundation had been. People started screaming. People started running. Ji-hoon ran too. But not away from the ships. He ran toward the military base, where his unit was stationed. If he was going to die tonight, he was going to die fighting. Far above the earth, Commander Vorath watched the invasion begin. He was a Draconian, a member of the most powerful species in the galaxy. His scales were dark, purple, almost black. His eyes glowed yellow in the dim light of his command bridge. He had conquered 12 worlds before this one. Earth would be his 13th. "Status report," he said. "All ships in position, Commander," his second officer replied. "The natives are panicking. Their weapons cannot penetrate our shields. Their aircraft are too slow to catch us." "This will be easy," Vorath nodded. He had expected nothing less. The Galactic Council had marked Earth as a primitive world. The humans had only recently discovered space travel. They had no energy weapons, no force fields, no faster-than-light engines. They were like children playing with sticks while the adults carried guns. "Begin the ground assault," Vorath ordered. "I want this planet secured." Within 1 rotation, troop carriers descended from the warships. They landed in every major city. Draconian soldiers poured out, their armor gleaming, their weapons ready. They expected the humans to surrender immediately. They expected fear and submission. They did not expect Ji-hoon. He reached his base just as a Draconian carrier landed on the training field. His fellow soldiers were already there, forming a defensive line. Their rifles looked small and weak compared to the alien weapons. But they stood firm. "Hold your fire until they get closer," the sergeant ordered. "Make every shot count." The Draconians marched forward. They moved with perfect coordination, like a machine. Their leader raised his hand and shouted something in a language no human could understand. It was probably a demand for surrender. The sergeant's answer was a bullet. It bounced off the Draconian's armor like a pebble off a tank. The aliens laughed. Actually laughed. Then, they raised their weapons. The first wave of human soldiers fell. Their bodies hit the ground before they could even scream. Ji-hoon dove behind a concrete barrier and watched his friends die. He felt rage building inside him, a rage deeper than anything he had ever known. He was not going to give up. None of them were. Across the city, Yuna was making her way through the chaos. The research center had been destroyed. but she had managed to save her laptop. It contained all the data they had collected about the alien ships. If anyone survived this night, they would need that information. She found a group of survivors hiding in a subway station. Families, children, old people. They looked at her with desperate eyes. "Is help coming?" a young mother asked. Yuna did not know how to answer. Help from where? Help from whom? The entire world was under attack. Every country. Every city. There was no safe place to run. There was no army that could save them. "We will find a way," Yuna said. It was not really an answer, but it was all she had. Above them, the Draconian ships continued their assault. City after city fell. Government buildings were destroyed. Military bases were wiped out. Within hours, every major world leader was dead or captured. The United Nations building in New York was reduced to dust. The Pentagon was a crater. The Great Wall of China lay in pieces. Commander Vorath watched the destruction with satisfaction. Everything was going according to plan. The humans were putting up more resistance than expected. But it did not matter. Their weapons were useless. Their numbers were meaningless. Victory was certain. Then something strange happened. One of his ships stopped responding. "What happened to Assault Carrier 7? Vorath demanded. "Unknown, Commander. They were attacking a small city called Daegu. Then their signal just vanished." Vorath frowned. Ships did not just vanish. Ships exploded. Ships crashed. Ships did not simply disappear. "Send a team to investigate," he ordered. He did not know it yet. But Assault Carrier 7 was just the beginning. Over the next 6 hours, more ships would go silent. More soldiers would vanish. More Draconians would die without any explanation. And by the time Vorath realized what was happening, it would be far too late. The humans were not as primitive as they seemed. They had a secret. A terrible, wonderful secret that would change the galaxy forever. But that night, as Sol burned and Jihoon fought for his life, no one knew the truth yet. No one knew that humanity was about to do something impossible, something that would make every species in the galaxy afraid to ever come to Earth again. The invasion had begun, but so had the end of the Draconian Armada. 50 years passed. The galaxy moved on. The Draconian Empire never spoke about what happened at Earth. They recorded it as a training accident. 10,000 ships, 500,000 soldiers, all lost to a navigation error. It was the biggest lie in galactic history. But lies have a way of becoming truth when everyone agrees to believe them. Earth became a quarantine zone. Red markers on every star map. Warning signals on every trade route. Do not approach. Do not investigate. Do not ask questions. Young Draconians learned nothing about the invasion. The old ones who knew the truth kept their mouths shut. Fear does that to people. Fear makes them forget. Fear makes them pretend. But some things cannot stay buried forever. Minho was a trader. He flew a small cargo ship called the Wanderer. It was old and slow, but it was his. He had bought it with 20 years of savings, and he treated it like a member of his family. He was Korean, one of the few humans who had left Earth before the quarantine. His grandparents had been part of a colony mission to a planet called New Sol. They never returned home. They never even received news from home. The quarantine made sure of that. Minho grew up knowing almost nothing about Earth, just stories, just legends. His grandmother used to tell him about mountains and rivers and cities full of millions of people. She used to cry when she talked about it. He never understood why until he got older. Now he was 43 years old, and he made his living moving cargo between stations in the outer sectors. It was not glamorous work. It was not exciting. But it paid the bills and kept him flying. Tonight, he was taking a shortcut through an empty sector. Most traders avoided this area because it was close to the Sol system. Close to Earth. Close to the place nobody wanted to think about. But Minho was not most traders. He had always been curious about the home his grandmother loved so much. He had always wondered what really happened there 50 years ago. Warning, his ship's computer said, detecting unusual signal patterns. Origin unknown. Minho looked at his scanner. There was something out there. A signal. Very weak. Very old. It was coming from somewhere near the edge of the Sol system. Can you identify it? He asked. Signal matches Draconian military frequency. Encryption pattern is outdated. Approximately 50 years old. Minho felt his heart beat faster. 50 years. That was when the Draconians supposedly had their training accident. That was when Earth went dark. He knew he should ignore it. He knew he should keep flying and forget he ever saw anything. But his grandmother's voice echoed in his mind. Her stories. Her tears. Her longing for a home she could never see again. He changed course. The signal got stronger as he flew closer. It was a distress beacon. Someone had sent it 50 years ago, and it had been repeating ever since. Calling for help that never came. Playing audio recording, the computer said. Static filled the cockpit. Then a voice. A draconian voice. Speaking in the common galactic language. The words were broken. Interrupted by screams and explosions. This is Assault Carrier 7. Under attack. Repeat. We are under attack. They came from below. From the ground. They are not what we thought. They are not primitive. They are. The recording cut out. Then it started again from the beginning. The same desperate words. The same terrified voice. The same horrible sounds in the background. Minho listened to it 3 times. Each time, he noticed something new. The screams were not just draconian. There were other sounds too. Sounds he could not identify. Sounds that made his skin crawl. Computer, is there more? He asked, scanning nearby frequencies, detecting additional signals, 17 total, all draconian military, all distress beacons, 17 ships, 17 distress calls, all from the same night, 50 years ago. Minho spent the next hour collecting them. Each one told a piece of the story. Each one revealed a little more of the truth that the Draconian Empire had tried so hard to hide. Carrier 12 reported that their ground troops had entered a city called Busan. They had expected easy conquest. Instead, they found empty streets and sealed buildings. When they tried to break in, something broke out. Carrier 23 described a battle in a place called the Pacific Ocean. Their ships had tried to establish a naval blockade. Something in the water pulled them down. Ships that could fly through space were dragged under the waves and never came back up. Carrier 41 sent a single image before going silent. Minho stared at it for a long time. It showed a draconian soldier standing in a field of tall grass. Behind him, something was rising from the ground. Something huge. Something that looked almost human, but wrong. Too big. Too many arms. Too many eyes. The last recording was the worst. It came from the command ship itself. Commander Vorath's final transmission. His voice was calm at first, giving orders, demanding updates. Then the calm broke. He started shouting. He started begging. He called for retreat. He called for help. He called for his mother. Then there was silence. A long, terrible silence. And then a new voice spoke. A human voice. A woman's voice. Soft and gentle. Speaking perfect Draconian. Thank you for the ships, she said. Thank you for the weapons. Thank you for the technology. We have learned so much from you. Now go home, little recorder. Go home and tell them what happened here. Tell them to stay away. Tell them that Earth is not for conquest. Earth is where conquerors come to die. The recording ended. Minho sat in his pilot seat for a very long time. His hands were shaking. His mouth was dry. He had wanted to know the truth about Earth. Now he knew, and he wished he did not. The Draconians had not suffered a training accident. They had been destroyed. Completely. Totally. By a species they had dismissed as primitive. By humans who had secrets the galaxy could not imagine. He thought about his grandmother. He thought about New Sol and all the colonists who had left Earth before the quarantine. Did they know? Did they have any idea what their home planet had become? He needed to tell someone. He needed to warn someone. But who would believe him? The Draconian Empire had spent 50 years building a lie. They would not let some human traitor destroy it with a few old recordings. Minho made a decision. He turned his ship around and headed for the Galactic Council station. He would find someone who would listen. He would make them understand. The galaxy had ignored the warnings for 50 years. It was time for the truth to come out. But as his ship jumped to faster than light speed, Minho did not notice the small light blinking on his scanner. He did not notice that another ship had been watching him the whole time. A ship with no markings. A ship that had come from Earth. The humans knew about the recordings. They had let them survive on purpose. They had been waiting for someone to find them. Waiting for someone to carry the message to the rest of the galaxy. Because the humans were not hiding anymore. They were getting ready. And soon, very soon, the galaxy would learn why it should have listened to the warnings. The Galactic Council chamber was the largest building Minho had ever seen. It floated in space, a massive ring of metal and glass, home to representatives from over 300 species. This was where the galaxy made its decisions. This was where power lived. Minho felt very small as he walked through its halls. He was nobody, a traitor, a human from a colony that most species had never heard of. But he had something important. He had the truth. He had spent 2 weeks trying to get someone to listen. Most doors closed in his face. Most officials laughed at his claims. But finally, he found someone who believed him. Her name was Hana. She was the ambassador from New Seoul, the only human representative in the entire council. She was old now, nearly 80. But her eyes were sharp and her mind was sharper. She had spent her whole life fighting for humans to be taken seriously in galactic politics. Now she finally had a weapon. "These recordings are real," she said, studying them on her datapad. "I have had our best technicians examine them. No tampering, no fabrication. This is what actually happened to the Draconian Armada." "Will the council listen?" Minho asked. Hana smiled. But it was not a happy smile. "They will hear. Whether they listen is a different question. The galaxy has believed the Draconian lie for 50 years. Lies become comfortable after so long. Truth is uncomfortable." She was right. The council session was a disaster. Hana stood before 300 species and played the recordings. She showed them the images. She explained what the evidence meant. She asked them to consider the possibility that Earth was not a primitive world to be ignored, but something else entirely. Something dangerous. The Draconians were the first to respond. Their ambassador, a tall female with bright green scales, stood up and called Hana a liar. She said the recordings were fake. She said humans were trying to make themselves seem important. She said the whole thing was an embarrassment. Other species agreed. The Velthari ambassador laughed openly. The Korthan delegate walked out. Even species that were usually friendly to humans seemed uncomfortable. "Why would we believe this?" the council president asked. He was a Melaran, a species known for their caution. Earth has been quarantined for 50 years. No ships have entered or left. If the humans there were so powerful, why have they not contacted us? Why have they remained silent? Hana did not have an answer. That was the question she had been asking herself since Minho first showed her the recordings. If humanity had truly destroyed the Draconian Armada, if they had truly developed such incredible power, why were they hiding? What were they waiting for? The session ended without any action. The council voted to continue the quarantine but take no further steps. Earth would remain a mystery. The recordings would be filed away and forgotten. Hana walked out of the chamber feeling defeated. 50 years of lies had won again, but she did not know that the session had been watched. She did not know that someone very important had been listening. Grand Admiral Tarek of the Velthari Empire stood in his private viewing room and smiled. He was old for his species, nearly 200 years, but he was still strong, still ambitious, still hungry for conquest. The Velthari had been rivals of the Draconians for centuries. When the Draconian Armada vanished, the Velthari celebrated. It meant one less competitor, one less obstacle. It meant opportunity. Now, watching the recordings that Hana had presented, Tarek saw an even bigger opportunity. If the recordings were real, if Earth truly held such power, then whoever controlled that power would control the galaxy. Prepare a fleet, he ordered his aide. 20,000 ships. Our best soldiers. Our newest weapons. Target, Grand Admiral. Earth. His aide hesitated. Sir. The quarantine. Sir. 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 The quarantine. The quarantine was created by cowards. The Draconians failed because they were weak and arrogant. They sent an invasion force without proper intelligence. Without proper preparation, we will not make the same mistake. Tarek had spent months gathering information about Earth. He had found old records, pre-quarantine data, everything the galaxy had tried to forget. He knew things about humans that most species did not. He knew about their history, their wars, their weapons, and he knew one very important thing. Humans were survivors. They had nearly destroyed their own planet multiple times, and always found a way to recover. They had faced extinction and refused to die. Whatever had happened to the Draconian Armada, it was not magic. It was not luck. It was the result of a species that never gave up. Tarek respected that. He also believed he could beat it. The Council will oppose this action, his aide warned. The Council is weak, Tarek replied. They debate while opportunities slip away. By the time they finish arguing, I will already control Earth, and once I have whatever power the humans are hiding, no one will dare oppose me. News of the Velthari fleet spread quickly. Within days, the entire galaxy knew that someone was finally going to challenge the quarantine. Opinions were divided. Some species thought Tarek was brave, others thought he was insane. Most simply waited to see what would happen. On New Sol, Hannah received the news with dread. She called an emergency meeting with the colony leaders. This is exactly what I was trying to prevent, she said. The Velthari are walking into a trap. Whatever destroyed the Draconians is still on Earth. It has had 50 years to grow stronger. What can we do? Asked Governor Park, an old man with tired eyes. Nothing. We are one small colony. We have no military, no influence. All we can do is watch and hope. But Minho had a different idea. He had not stopped thinking about those recordings since he first found them. He had not stopped thinking about the woman's voice at the end. The voice that spoke perfect Draconian. The voice that had thanked the invaders for their ships and weapons. We could warn them, he said. Everyone looked at him. The Velthari. We could contact them directly. Show them what we showed the Council. Maybe they will listen. Hannah shook her head. Admiral Tarek does not listen to anyone. He has made his decision. Nothing we say will change it. Then we warn the other humans, Minho said. The ones on Earth. We tell them what is coming. The room went silent. Contact with Earth was forbidden. Anyone caught trying to breach the quarantine faced imprisonment or worse. But Minho did not care about rules anymore. He cared about truth. He cared about family. Somewhere on that planet, the descendants of his grandmother's people were waiting. They deserved to know that another invasion was coming. It is too dangerous, Governor Park said. Everything is dangerous, Minho replied. But some things are worth the risk. He left the meeting without waiting for permission. He walked straight to his ship and started the engines. He plotted a course for the Sol system, for Earth, for answers. Behind him, Hannah watched his ship disappear into the stars. She said a quiet prayer for him, a prayer that he would find what he was looking for, a prayer that the humans on Earth were ready for what was coming, because the Velthari fleet was already moving. 20,000 ships, filled with soldiers who believed they were about to conquer a primitive world. They had no idea what waited for them. They had no idea that the galaxy was about to change forever. The warnings had been ignored. Now everyone would learn the consequences. Minho's ship dropped out of faster-than-light speed at the edge of the Sol system. His hands were sweating. His heart was pounding. He was the first human from the colonies to approach Earth in 50 years. He expected to find ruins. He expected to find destruction. He expected to find a dead world surrounded by debris. What he found was something completely different. The space around Earth was not empty. It was full of stations. Hundreds of them. Massive structures that dwarfed anything in the galactic colonies. They orbited the planet in perfect formation, connected by beams of light that looked like a web of stars. And there were ships. Thousands of ships. Not the old, slow vessels that humans had used before the quarantine. These were new. These were advanced. These were built with technology that Minho had never seen before. Unidentified vessel, a voice said over his radio. You have entered protected space. State your name and purpose. Minho's mouth opened, but no words came out. He was too shocked to speak. This is Korean Space Defense Command, the voice continued. You have 10 seconds to respond before we consider you hostile. Korean. The voice was speaking Korean. His grandmother's language. The language of his ancestors. My name is Minho, he finally managed. I am from New Seoul Colony. I came to warn you. The Velthari are coming. 20,000 ships. They want to conquer Earth. There was a pause. Then, the voice spoke again. But this time, it sounded different. Amused. Thank you for the warning, Minho of New Seoul. We have been expecting them. Please follow the guide signal to Station 7. Commander Sujin will meet you there. A light appeared on his navigation screen. Minho followed it, too stunned to do anything else. As he flew closer to the planet, he saw more and more evidence of how much had changed. Cities glowed on the night side of Earth, bigger and brighter than anything in the old records. Ships moved between the stations like fish in a river. Everything was organized. Everything was efficient. Everything was ready. This was not a primitive world hiding from the galaxy. This was a civilization preparing for war. Station 7 was a military facility. Minho could tell from the moment he docked. Soldiers walked the halls in black uniforms. Weapons hung on every wall. Screens displayed tactical data from across the system. Commander Sujin met him in a briefing room. She was a woman in her 50s, with short gray hair and eyes that seemed to see everything. She moved with the confidence of someone who had won many battles. Welcome home, she said. Or welcome to your ancestors' home, I should say. You look just like your grandmother. Minho stared at her. You knew my grandmother? I knew of her. The colony ships were tracked before the quarantine. We always knew where our people went. We just could not contact them. Sujin sat down and gestured for Minho to do the same. Tell me about the Velthari. How many ships? What weapons? Minho told her everything he knew. The size of the fleet, Admiral Tarek's reputation, the Council's refusal to act. As he spoke, Sujin nodded slowly, as if none of this was a surprise. 20,000 ships, she said when he finished. That is more than the Draconians sent. Admiral Tarek must really want this planet. Can you stop them? Minho asked. Sujin smiled. It was the smile of someone holding a secret too big for words. Let me show you something. She led him to an observation deck. Through the transparent walls, Minho could see Earth below, blue and green and beautiful. But Sujin pointed up, toward the darkness of space. 50 years ago, the Draconians came to conquer us, she said. They had 10,000 ships and 500,000 soldiers. They had weapons that could vaporize cities. They had armor that our bullets could not penetrate. By every measure, we should have lost. But you won, Minho said. We survived the first night, Sujin corrected. That was all we could do at first. Hide, fight, die, repeat. We lost 3 billion people in the first week. 3 billion. Her voice did not shake, but Minho could hear the weight of those numbers pressing down on her. We were not winning. We were just refusing to lose. Also, what changed? We learned. Sujin's eyes moved to a distant station, one larger than the others. Every ship the Draconians lost became a classroom. Every weapon became a textbook. Every piece of technology was studied, copied, improved. We had engineers and scientists working day and night, taking apart alien machines and figuring out how to build better ones. You reverse engineered their technology, Minho said. We did more than that. We advanced it. The Draconians had been using the same technology for thousands of years. They had stopped innovating long ago. We had no such limitations. Within a month, we had shields. Within a year, we had energy weapons. Within a decade, we had faster-than-light travel. Minho felt dizzy. The implications were too big to process. Why did you stay hidden? Why not contact the colonies? Why not join the Galactic Council? Sujin turned to face him. Because we were not ready. Because we needed time to build. And because we wanted the galaxy to forget about us. Fear is a weapon, Minho. The Draconians feared what happened here. They made others fear it too. That fear protected us while we grew strong. And now? Now we are ready. Sujin walked to a control panel and pressed a button. The observation deck's display changed, showing a map of the Sol system. Red dots appeared at the edge, moving closer. The Velthari fleet. They will arrive in 3 days, Sujin said. 20,000 ships full of soldiers who think they are about to conquer a primitive world. They have no idea what they are walking into. What will you do? Minho asked. First, we will give them a chance to leave. We are not monsters. We do not want war. But if they insist on fighting... She pressed another button. Green dots appeared on the map. Many more green dots than red. Then we will show them what humanity has become. Minho counted the green dots. He stopped at 10,000 and gave up. There were too many. We have been building for 50 years, Sujin said. Every adult on Earth can fly a fighter. Every city has underground bunkers stocked with weapons. Every mountain hides a missile launcher. Every ocean conceals a submarine fleet. She paused. And that is just our defense. Our offense is much more impressive. Why are you telling me this? Minho asked. Because you came to warn us. Because you risked everything to help family you had never met. That means something. Sujin put a hand on his shoulder. And because I want you to understand why we did what we did, the quarantine, the silence, the waiting. It was all for this moment. The moment when the galaxy would finally learn the truth. What truth? Sujin smiled again. That same secret smile. That humanity is not a primitive species to be conquered. That we are not victims waiting to be saved. That everything the Draconians thought they knew about us was wrong. Her smile faded, replaced by something harder, something colder. And that anyone who tries to take our home will face the same fate as the last ones who tried. 3 days later, the Velthari fleet arrived. They expected fear. They expected submission. They expected an easy victory. What they found was Commander Sujin, broadcasting on every frequency, speaking perfect Velthari, with a smile on her face. Welcome to Earth, she said. You have 1 hour to turn around and leave. After that, we will consider your presence an act of war. Admiral Tarek laughed when he heard the message. He ordered his ships forward. That was the last order he ever gave. The battle lasted 4 hours. Admiral Tarek had expected resistance. He had prepared for traps. He had studied every piece of information the galaxy had about human warfare. He thought he knew what he was facing. He was wrong. The first wave of Velthari ships crossed the boundary that Sujin had warned them not to cross. They were confident. They were arrogant. They were vaporized in less than 3 seconds. Weapons fired from stations that Tarek's sensors had not detected. Ships appeared from behind moons and asteroids, moving faster than anything the Velthari had ever seen. The human fighters were small, barely bigger than escape pods, but they swarmed like insects and hit like hammers. Fall back, Tarek screamed. All ships fall back. But there was nowhere to fall back to. The humans had surrounded them. They had been waiting in the darkness between planets, hidden and silent, watching the Velthari approach. Now, they closed the trap. Minho watched from Station 7. He had been given a seat in the observation room, a place of honor for the man who had tried to warn Earth, Around him, officers worked calmly, giving orders, tracking movements, coordinating the defense. No, not defense. This was not defense. This was annihilation. Ship after ship exploded on the screens. Velthari carriers broke apart. Fighters tumbled through space without pilots. The proud fleet that had crossed half the galaxy was being torn to pieces. Why? Minho whispered. Why not just let them leave? Commander Sujin heard him. She turned away from the tactical display and walked over. Because leaving is not enough, she said. The Draconians left survivors. They let some ships escape, hoping the stories would spread fear. It did not work. Fear faded. Lies replaced truth. And now another fleet has come. So you will destroy them all? Every single ship? No. Sujin shook her head. We will destroy most of them. But we will let some escape. Just like before. The difference is what they will carry with them this time. What do you mean? Sujin did not answer. She simply pointed at the screen. On the edge of the battle, a small group of Velthari ships was breaking away. They were running, engines at full power, desperate to escape the slaughter. Human fighters could have caught them easily. Human weapons could have destroyed them in an instant. But no one fired. No one pursued. The ships escaped. They jumped to faster-than-light speed and vanished into the darkness between stars. Those ships are carrying something, Sujin explained. A message. A recording. Everything that happened here today. Everything that happened 50 years ago. The complete truth about what Earth has become. Minho understood. You want them to spread the word. I want more than that. Sujin's voice was hard as steel. I want every species in the galaxy to see this recording. I want them to know that we did not just survive the Draconian invasion. We absorbed it. We took their ships, their weapons, their technology, and we made it ours. We became something new, something stronger. The battle was ending. The Velthari fleet was gone. 20,000 ships reduced to debris and dust. Admiral Tarek's flagship had been the last to fall. His final transmission was a scream of disbelief. Now, the space around Earth was quiet again. The human ships began returning to their stations. The fighters flew back to their carriers. It was over. But it was also just beginning. 3 days later, the recording reached the Galactic Council. It spread like fire after that. Every station, every planet, every ship with a communication system. Within a week, every species in the galaxy had seen it. The recording showed everything. The battle, the destruction, the overwhelming power of humanity's fleet. But that was not the frightening part. The frightening part came at the end. Commander Sujin appeared on screen. Behind her, the blue planet of Earth filled the view. She spoke calmly, clearly, in a language that every species could understand. 50 years ago, the Draconian Empire sent their mightiest armada to conquer our world. They believed we were primitive, weak, easy to crush. They were wrong. The image changed to show wreckage floating in space. Draconian wreckage. The remains of Commander Vorath's invasion force. We did not just defeat them. We learned from them. Every ship that fell became our teacher. Every weapon became our tool. Every piece of technology became the foundation for something greater. We took what they brought to destroy us and used it to rebuild ourselves. The image changed again. Now it showed the human fleet. Thousands upon thousands of ships, stretching across the screen like an ocean of stars. Ships that combined human engineering with draconian power. Ships that were faster, stronger, and more deadly than anything the galaxy had ever seen. 3 days ago, the Velthari Empire made the same mistake the Draconians made. They came to conquer. They found only death. Their fleet is gone. Their admiral is dead. Their ambition has turned to ash. Sujin leaned forward. Her eyes seemed to look directly at every person watching. For 50 years, we stayed silent. We let the galaxy believe their lies. We let them forget. We let them think we were nothing. That time is over. She paused. When she spoke again, Her voice was softer, but somehow more terrifying. We are not seeking war. We are not seeking conquest. We are seeking recognition, respect, a seat at the table that was denied to us for too long. The Galactic Council will send representatives to Earth within 30 days. We will discuss the future. We will discuss peace. We will discuss how humanity rejoins the galactic community. Another pause. And if anyone is thinking about being the third species to try conquering our home, remember the Draconians. Remember the Velthari. Remember that we do not forget. We do not forgive. And we do not lose. The recording ended. The galaxy went silent. On New Sol, Ambassador Hana watched the broadcast with tears in her eyes. After 50 years of fighting for recognition, after a lifetime of being dismissed and ignored, humanity had finally made the galaxy listen. Not with words, not with diplomacy, with power that could not be denied. On the Draconian homeworld, the survivors of the old invasion finally spoke the truth. They told the stories they had been forbidden to tell. They described the horrors they had witnessed. They warned their children and grandchildren. Never go back to Earth. Never. On Station 7, Minho stood beside Commander Sujin and watched Earth turn slowly below them. It was beautiful. It was terrifying. It was home. What happens now? He asked. Now the galaxy changes, Sujin replied. Now humans take their place among the stars. Not as primitives. Not as victims. As equals. Or more than equals, if others do not treat us fairly. And the other colonies? New Sol and the others? Sujin smiled. A real smile this time. Warm and genuine. They are family. They always have been. Now that the quarantine is over, they can finally come home. Or we can come to them. Either way, humanity is united again. Minho thought about his grandmother. He thought about the stories she used to tell. He thought about her tears and her longing and her dreams of a home she could never see again. He wished she was alive to see this. He wished she could know that Earth had not just survived, but become something magnificent, something powerful, something that would never be conquered. The frightening truth had been revealed. Humanity was coming, and the galaxy would never be the same.